People, uh, our area where I'm from, they just recognize our native tribe is the Coca. And they call them Coca because they work a red clay that they were known as people that make the pottery. You know, you see the little red clay chihuahuas and stuff from Western Mexico and things like that. And I grew up there as a child. I was born in the United States, but my mom took us to be raised in Mexico. And where we grew up, there's a river called the Rio Santiago, which is coming from the Lake Chapala. And in the 1950s, 60s, it was known as the Mexican Niagara Falls. And if you fast forward to the 1980s, it's a toxic tour that Greenpeace does because people are dying from the industrial corridor that was created there in the 60s and 70s, that by the 80s, the water was so polluted that it was giving a lot of people cancers, tumors, renal failure, and I know a lot of people that died from the pollution just for living near the river. Now, our community is a farming community, so we need the water, but the companies upstream, and you know, you have to see how the governments put money into these companies how the governments get money from these companies so that the regulations are not enforced. And so money and greed money is a powerful tool that's being used not only to take land, but also to pay off people, so that this greed is killing a lot of people. You know, so I'm a muralist. I grew up in Mexico, but then my mom took us to Los Angeles, and I was in the 84. I was like 9 years old, and seeing how I grew up next to the Los Angeles River. So I've always grown up next to rivers, and the water is real important because it affects. I mean, we need water to survive. But being that I grew up next to two rivers that were polluted my whole life, when I go and see clean rivers, it makes me furious because there's so many people that are dying because of other people's greed. So, you know, I became a graffiti artist, a graffiti writer, and I started painting in the Los Angeles River, and, you know, I got exposed to a lot of to being able to see the industrial side of Los Angeles. You know, now it's the Arts District, but it didn't used to be the Arts District, you know. And so just being around that and seeing, you know, like, doing graffiti, you know, when you do graffiti, you put your name up, just like Chevron puts their name up everywhere. You know, it's advertising, right? I started advertising the idea of this is stolen land, you know, because of how infuriating it was of our condition and how we were placed. You know, I was raised in the housing projects, so that's on top of being next to pollution. You're in the housing project where there's a lot of injustice and basically it's racism, you know. And I started doing the graffiti with political themes, but then I got into painting murals because to survive, I got a job I was a sign painter. So I was doing sign painting. People would ask for murals, and from that point, I started thinking more how images affect people. You know, I took an art history class at a community college, and I learned a lot about the history of art and from the Renaissance to even before the Renaissance, and how it was used by the monarchs as propaganda tools. I took a marketing class because I wanted to start working in art, but there's no business art. You just have to take normal business. So I learned how marketing was used, and I started thinking, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my art to help bring positive messages to the youth. So we won't, like, I would see people, like, there's this thing called Cop Watch in LA, and they wanted me to do a banner, and their logo is a cop beating somebody up. And I said, well, why don't I just paint people beating up a cop? Because I don't want to how you say, reinforce that image, you know? So instead of painting the problem, why don't we talk about painting the solution so that it may manifest itself, right? Not that it manifests as beating up cops, but we were doing murals of gardens in places where there's no gardens. We were doing murals of families being together and helping each other out in an area where it was called the ghetto or the hood, you know? So I did these PowerPoint presentations called Breaking Down the Power of Images, and talking about the origins of wall painting, from the cave paintings where people draw with stick figures. You can read stick figures. So the language that we could all speak without having to speak the same language is art. It's a universal language and it belongs to everyone. And you don't have to be a trained artist to do art. You know, art is also has to do with the way you think. You know, people's ideas are powerful. And the way you get someone that knows how to draw your idea, you know, then you have a religion. But I started Mictlan Murals. That's what I'm known as, Mictlan Murals, in 1998. And Mictlan is a place, like I'm from Juanacatlan, and there's Mazatlan, and there's Mictlan. And Mictlan means the place of our common ground. It means the place of rest and transformation, because it's represented by a little skull. And in the Spanish chronicles it says, oh, that's the Aztec hell. But we didn't believe in hell. We believed in equality. We believe that we're all just flesh and bone. And in your position of how smart or how rich or how not rich, you're all in the same, we're all temporary. And we have a very small time that we're passing through here. And so our job is to be able to share what we learned to the next generation so that we don't commit the same mistakes, but also recognize how we're all literally just equal. You know, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, pink, orange, or whatever, you know? We're just all bones. And so the logo, Mictlan, some people got scared and they're like, oh, it's a skull. But I mean, that's how we all look under our skin, you know? Because everybody's the same. But so Mictlan meant that we're all included. And I would do these murals with communities where there's a need, you know, where there's a need that we need to bring up an issue. We talk about the issue and then we try to paint the solution. And so I started that in 1998 after I took my business class. So but I did study art. I did study a lot of the art history. And I got into the school of David Alfaro Siqueiros, which was a Mexican muralist. That he was a revolutionary. You know, he fought in the Mexican Revolution. He fought against the fascists in Spain. And he got kicked out of almost every country he went to because he was such a revolutionary. You know, he wasn't just painting, he was also armed struggle. You know, and that's how serious the situation is. Because until these companies see that people can actually, you know, stand up to their bullying, because they're bullying, that's bullying. When people can see, then they'll start to realize that, hey, you know, maybe we are overstepping ourselves. But the school that I come from is from that school, David Alfaro Siqueiros, and I did a lot of work with youth in prison, talking about art to help them, you know, express themselves as therapy. But art as a tool is a powerful weapon. It's a powerful. There's a quote by Stephen Biko from South Africa, right, during the time of apartheid, and he said, the most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And how do you free a mind, but not with images, with music, with the arts? Because the arts are not in a box. They're not regulated. You know, even people that go to, you don't have to have a master's degree to do art. You know, and so we're talking about what is the universal language, and to do this type of work to help our Mother Earth that we all live on, we use by any means necessary. And you know, unfortunately, because of the work I do, you know, it kind of puts me in a how you say in a box already. So the funding for the arts, especially revolutionary arts, is where we also need to see more of that, because that creates movements. You know, you see the movements in the 60s, you see the movements even in the 20s. You know, they were using art as a tool to help people wake up, to help people, you know, give voting rights, give all these things where you can use images. Images have a lot of power, people worship images as a matter of fact. But that's how much power they have, and so our job is to be able to use these images to help. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to help and to do whatever I can. Thank you.
And you brought some stuff to sell to support the arts.
Oh yeah, we're at the tattoo.
At Courage.
At Courage. We got t-shirts out there, and
bring them tomorrow to the festival.
Yeah, on Sunday I'll have them on there tomorrow.
With one of his images.
One of my paintings.
One of your revolutionary images.
Speak about spicy.
It's not a banana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Fawn. I am a graphic illustrator from Klamath, California, from the Yurok tribe, and I am currently living in Akwesasne, New York. It's on the Canadian border, where my husband's from. And I am just so thankful to be here. I always get a little shy talking about myself because my front line is really a special place. It is at my favorite desk in the world. It is a 2-deck desk that has all of my memories, holds all of my supplies, and we get down pretty much all the time. For me, art is more than just a tool. She is my person. She is my partner in life. I tell my husband we're in a throuple all the time, so he's our third. And for me, he's the third. It's a very honorable position. I have so many stories with art, and it's always so hard to pick. But I guess a lot of times people are always curious about how I got into this and what led to all of this. And I would say the salmon. When I was in 2002, our river in the Klamath went through our fish kill, and it killed almost our entire adult population of salmon. And as a salmon community, it really impacted our community, not just environmentally, but spiritually. It was spiritual warfare to see our river get sick from farmers taking our water and creating low water levels, and it was getting warmer and creating algae blooms that got our salmon sick. And even after they passed, we couldn't even eat them and send them on their way because they were sick. And the spiritual warfare came in the forms of meth and alcohol, and it really impacted a lot of our communities on that river. So, it's not just a climate issue; it's a spiritual battle. So, a lot of people have to understand that intersection, because we lost a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of parents, a lot of fathers, a lot of families were broken up, and that really impacted our generation. And me and my twin, we turned to art at that time, and art really was there for us. And I remember my big cousin Brandy, shout out to her and to her son who's missing. So I want to take a moment for my baby cousin Brandon and ask for him to come home, and for the people that know where he's at to bring him home and to have some answers. But my big cousin Brandy, she introduced me to my first cell phone when I was a tween, and at that moment I was officially connected. And that's when we started to have access to a lot of things, access to the outside world, what was happening around us in an isolated community. So I really got to see what was out there and access to pop culture, because we didn't have much of that back home. It was really rough. So to see what was happening in the world was inspirational, especially in the world of animation and film. And what really struck to me was I'm Filipino and Native. So trying to find where I belonged in the world was really hard, because there was so much divide and culture clash that it was really hard to really understand who I was. Because even though I grew up on the res, I didn't have access to our spiritual medicines, because my dad was fighting his battles and my mom was trying to find her place after migrating from the Philippines to America and finding her roots here. So it was really just trying to find that balance with my twin. And then when we were able to access the internet, I got introduced to to video games like Japanese animation, which was very hard to access at that time. So the hottest thing came into my life that blew my mind was Sailor Moon. That was the OG girl gang, OG in the name of the moon. I'll freaking punish you. And I was cool, let's go punish these pipelines. I'm so down. And it was with the girl gang. So I was super into that. And then for me, I could not stop drawing warrior babes. I could not stop drawing my girlfriends as the hottest warriors that I know. And then as time went on, I was 17 before I knew it, and it was time to leave home and see what the world had for me. So I left with no money, no phone, no ID. I just knew it was just time. So as soon as I graduated, got in the car with my godmother and got dropped off in LA, and then just really gotta see what was out there. The world is hard. There's no books on how to grow up and leave your community. So I just had to learn, which was fun. I'm very thankful that I made it. And then LA was too much, so I went to Sacramento with my sister and met one of the most incredible persons in the world. Snuck me into my very first arts training, where I met the most incredible trainers, Cy Wagner and Marty Willie Mays, who were looked at me like, who the hell is that? She did not apply. We brought a stranger and tested me, which I needed that because I didn't know nothing about the world, and I was like, just give me a chance. And then I threw down on the pencil, and I don't know, sometimes people tell me it blows their minds with what I can do with that, but that's my girlfriend. We get down. So from going to arts training, I always knew how to draw. That just was me and her for life. But it was learning what to draw and how to, like, what she could do. So I got to watch my partner grow up in the arts world and throw down. I was like, damn girl, I didn't know you could get down like that. So we had each other's backs. As long as I didn't give up on her, she didn't give up on me. And she really uplifted me in ways that I don't think a physical being could, until Standing Rock came around and I met my warrior family. And we really got to throw down together, and the art was there for me. She was there for all of us. And she brought me to my husband, where we met. He was the only person who wanted to paint banners with me in negative 30-degree weather. So that was hardcore. And he chopped all my wood, so thank you for that. It was cold. I've never seen snow. But my husband's a really big part of my life. We've been together for 10 years now. And since then, we started an art studio, Fish Bear Studios, where we had our baby. He's Bear Clan. I'm from Salmon People, so she's our little fish bear. And for us, it's not just an art studio. It's the way we're able to connect to our rural indigenous communities, because it is hard to get art resources there. You see a lot of tribal entities mismanage funds for art programming and put it elsewhere, because you never see the arts come to life. You just see it get mismanaged. And right now, we've been using our studio to combat a data center, the NCCS data center, who started off as a Bitcoin mining data center, but now they're trying to expand in the General Motors X facility, which contains a lot of legacy. The soil's effed up, and it's causing a lot of illness. There's rare forms of leukemia in our community. There's babies being born with their organs outside of their bodies. There's a lot of birth defects. Women, there's lack of the babies aren't coming because people aren't able to have babies, and it's just really hard to take on these entities in our small communities. And it's really hard because a lot of people are feeling it. People are scared. There's a lot of worry. There's a lot of anger. So how do we combat that within ourselves against these big forces? And we're doing it through art, because art is not just a language of beauty. It's a language of love, a language of community care. And I'm a big romantic, so for me, love just extends into platonic love. I got mad love for David here, for my new brother here, that we've been friends on Instagram for a while, and it just clicked because I'm really bad at in real life situations and making those dot connections. So when it clicks, I'm usually at bed at 2 in the morning, I'm like, oh my God. So it's really amazing to be here, and I'm so thankful for my big sis, Connor, who's for bringing me back to the homelands. So that's the hardest part too, pursuing the arts. It's me and her go through ups and downs like any relationship, especially when she's homesick. I feel it. She's calling for the lands. And to be able to bring her back to the lands is re-inspiring for me, so we can be able to heal together. So yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you. Questions?
My question is, do you want to see a piece of my art?
Yes.
Okay.
Other
Just
questions?
by coincidence, I didn't know this was happening today, but I brought this for somebody else.
It's
You've heard the
it's
song.
now easy being green.
You've heard the song, "It's Not Easy Being Green."
Right.
It's now easy being green.
Aww.
And another one that I have this big is the Hulk saying, "Get green already."
You have a question?
had a
Follow-up comment.
follow-up comment, which is just because we're an organizers conference, I wanted to make a provocative proposal to us as movements, and that is that, in my experience, and I think a lot of us have seen it, that when people put art and culture at the center, they win their campaigns together with strategic organizing. And so I would like to propose that as movements, we actually flip things upside down, and instead of wonderful administrators who we need, policy experts who read through all those things and explain them to us, instead of them leading our movements and organizations, let's lift up our performers and our artists to lead, and let's flip our budgets upside down so that if you're part of a group that has a budget, let's spend 90% of it on arts, and you can divide it between dance and performance, theater, visual arts, and then but we need that 5 or 10% for administration and policy. And then I'm just going to quickly share a tool that I can send anyone who wants to, but I work with a lot of organizations, and I think anyone who's an artist or performer is familiar with what happens, which is they do all their organizing, plan their campaigns, and then 3 days before the rally, if you're lucky, they say, will you paint a banner or perform at our thing? And so that's organizations and movements without arts and culture at the center. And I mean, I often work with organizations with $1 million budgets. They have 100 staff people, and I ask them, how many people who work in arts and culture do you have? And the answer is usually silence. And it's like, how much training and skills development amongst your organizers to be able to lead an art build, lead a song, put together a theater skit or performance, and usually it's also silence. So this is a plan I came up with, and I've used it in groups I work with. It's basically how to make an arts organizing plan to build arts and culture from the bottom, and arts in all the different ways, but basically to plan it into your education, your organizing, your actions, and your mobilization. So the first question is, as you're educating your community, doing